There are two major things that happened in 2025 last year that made me moving to South Korea specifically so certain. I was not so sure if I wanted to still be in that life. I changed my CV 5,000 times. I did door knocking, like earn an income and not be part of the unemployed youth statistic. A man can never be a plan. When am I coming back to South Africa? The short answer is never. Would I date a South African? Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Utando Pumelele Makoba. Thank you for joining in. If you are a returning subscriber, hey! And if you're new, welcome. I hope that you enjoy my journey, my 20s, going to 30s, going into 30s. That's crazy. Slow down. I am doing something that is astronomically unlike me, and that is to film in public. And not just film in public, but I am literally doing a sit down in public. I think this is probably God's plan because, as you know, if you did catch me on TikTok, I did order an LED tripod set. I ordered it twice and it did not work out. So I was like, you know what? Let me just film at a cafe and hope for the best. Over here, I have my beloved Ted Baker, so that's what's in the background. And I just chose like a little corner where I can actually speak. So hopefully you can hear me. This mic be doing the things, and we are working with natural lighting, so we are low key chasing the sun, guys. Let's get into it. This video is finally to chit chat about why I'm here. Why I'm here. If you know me in real life, then you know that I have been trying the process of moving abroad for a couple of years now. If you saw me on TikTok, then you know that in terms of documents, I've been trying for 3 years. And then for South Korea, it just happened to be 3 months with God's grace, and here I am today. But it wasn't like that. That's not the whole story. Um, Basically, yes, I had been wondering about this for like 5 years, but there was a time where I stopped. I had started the process back in maybe 2021, 2020, and I really gave it my all. I gave it my everything, but the whole documents thing was so expensive. It was not working at all, and it essentially felt like money and energy down the drain. So, in 2024, that's when I decided, you know what? If I'm going to be staying in South Africa, let me at least stay in my favorite city, and that's how I ended up in Joburg. My time in Joburg, I don't regret it at all. I am so glad that I went to Joburg because if it wasn't for me going there, I wouldn't have been absolutely certain and confident about my decision to move abroad. There are two major things that happened in 2025 last year that made me moving to South Korea specifically so certain for me. I would say the first one is the catalyst, and that is the lifestyle that I was living. So, upon my arrival in Joburg, I was still searching for jobs when I got there, and it was tough. It was tough. I did what I could. I changed my CV 5,000 times. I did door knocking. Like I did whatever I could possibly do so that I can secure a job. And then it truly was my luck, my blessing, that I was offered a job just to kind of get things going, for me to earn an income and not be part of the unemployed youth statistic. I am so abundantly grateful for my former employer. It was my first time having a big girl job where I'm also living a big girl life, and that is paying my own rent, paying my own utilities, paying for my own transports, paying for my own groceries, paying for my own Wi-Fi. Basically, yonke into big min. And it was a worthwhile experience because that's where I got to learn what matters and what doesn't matter. Let me elaborate. So, when I got my job, I was super duper grateful because my former employer trusted that I could actually get the job done. So I've always had an interest in politics, education, but I've always had a talent as well for administrative work. And that's because I love creating systems, I love optimizing things and people. So there's always a way to make things better. Also, a personal assistant, an executive personal assistant, before I worked at a call center. And then I worked at a call center for like 3 years before I decided to just go back to Joburg. So they needed more assistance with admin, and I needed a job. So my employer was like, "Hey, yo, come through." And I was like, "Say less." They were also trying to, they felt bad for me. They felt bad for me because they knew my talent and um, my interests and all that stuff and how it was not going well in the job market. And they didn't want me to be part of the unemployed youth statistics. So they gave me an honest job and I was down for it because this job was in the public works. I studied social science, but after seeing what my interests in politics and education had to offer and how I was not so sure if I wanted to still be in that life. Having something to do in public works was like the next thing I wanted to look at. And knowing me is knowing that I love learning about everything. I love knowing how things operate. I love knowing how things can be made better. And I wanted to know about public works because public works affects each and every person that is living in the country. Obviously, since I am starting out and because it is an industry that is completely different to what I've studied, I was more on the admin side. And that's what they needed, and that was okay with me. So I did my big one as a receptionist, and I was also doubling as an executive assistant. I would assist my employer as well as the executives. This was well and everything, but it still feeling wasn't feeling completely right. And it became my employer as well, also saying, "Hey, as you work here, it's still good to look for something else, something that's a better fit." And I was like, okay. And nginganelale guys. So even if I'm like, okay, I'm still gonna take a moment to like sit, reflect, and think, does this person make a good point, or should I just take what they're saying with a grain of salt? What I really appreciated the most about my former employer is that he was like a mentor to me. So there was so much to learn and so much that I kept grasping with how he operates, how he moves, the decisions that he makes business wise, and also with building relationships with people. And one day, I was just talking to him about, if you know, I used to do this cute little, nothing major, nothing hectic, but this little segment on a very popular national news channel.
Thing I want to ask about the city of Cape Town, because you still have people living far from economic opportunities even in the city of Cape Town. So how then do you begin to resolve that in the city of Joburg? But hold that thought. Utando, for you, let's just talk about what will it take to win your heart as a voter?
Good evening, Bungiwe, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity, Blaine.
Good evening, Blaine, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity, Blaine. Thank you for the opportunity, Blaine, and good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Blaine. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity. I am Utando Pumelele Makoba.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for the opportunity, Blaine, and good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Blaine, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. As glamorous as Cape Town is made to be, there's a reason it has been referred to as the United States of Cape Town.
Unless they want to be financially and politically comfortable, that's what they're going for instead. If has now lost its popularity and they want to go to the winning team.
The lines have been blurred long before this week, where a woman will pay their own lobola. The more important aspect, however, is access to certain privileges.
Yep.
The growing concern the public has about safeguarding South African surnames against foreigners is unfortunate, but somewhat reasonable if we look at the chaos we have with stolen South African identities. Everyone can see already that something is happening. It would take a blind person sitting in load shedding to not see that something is happening at the ISCOM.
It's not a team sport. It's like a cultural sport with only one player. So we are entitled to pick the best one. If the ANC doesn't pick back up again, that GNU will quickly turn into a handover to the DA, which we've seen being serious from day one about the different things that they want to do for the country.
So right now, the ANC is falling into that typical political party trap of basing their campaign and popularity on being haters.
My question is directed to the DA, considering that the DA is unfortunately still considered that white party. So what is your level of confidence in reaching out to the KZN residents?
So we do know that we deserve a whole lot more than what we have at the moment. It just seems like a desperate romantic partner knowing that a breakup is about to come up and grasping at straws to remind you of the good moments when we're not actually living the good times right now. As the public, it can be razzle-dazzled by the theatrics, and we can easily lose sight of what's going on right in front of us.
At the end of the day, as an ambassador, you're still a guest in someone else's house. You can think of what you want and ensure that when asked for your opinion about your host, you state it as tactfully as possible.
Latanda, thank you very much indeed. She's part of our digital audience, ordinary South Africans from around the country, extraordinary in their own right, I might add, giving us their take on this.
And I was just telling my employer about how I got invited to be on the show again, but I don't know if it's still worth doing because I don't know if this politics thing is really going to work out, and I don't know if this academia thing is going to work out. So what's the point of me going on this show again? I remember very calmly and firmly, he said, Utando, you're an academic. You belong in education. Waphela kanjani? Like, as much as I would love for you to know about this industry and really like put everything into your work here, but in the deepest depths of what I know, you are an academic, you belong in education. Try to see if you can really get back into that. And I was like, yeah, okay, as usual. But I knew he was right. Maybe I will still get to live out my dream of being a lecturer in South Africa. Who knows? Let's try. Another part of this is in all the different education jobs that I've had, the one that really altered my brain chemistry was working as an assistant lecturer or as a tutor, depending on what your university calls it, at a public university. And what broke my spirit is that I was unaware until I was there myself that there's politics and then there's politics in politics. We know this. But I was not prepared for politics in the education system. And I was definitely not prepared for politics in the public tertiary education system. Perhaps I was naive. I did, after all, go to a private university, so there wasn't any time or room for politics there because there's so many things that have relatively quick fix when it comes to the student's education, but it's halted by the fact that there's politics. Randomly, I decided to get a whiteboard. I've been trying to apply for anything abroad. I didn't care if I was studying, I didn't care if I was working. All I knew is that I needed to leave so that whatever skills I have can be appreciated, since social science is taken as such a joke back at home, unfortunately. So I saw this ad years ago, and here it was again. Hi, do you want to teach in South Korea? It sends me to this website called Epic, and it gives me the longest application I've ever seen. I looked at this application and I was like, is it really worth it? I go back home to my place, I take out the whiteboard, and I'm like, do I really want to leave the country? Do I really want to go down this path again? Do I really want to sacrifice money, my money, again for this process? This is literally the map that I had. When was this actually? I want to know. Okay, so here I am in my apartment in Joburg in October. It's me, this whiteboard, and some harsh reality. I looked at ChatGPT, I did a little bit of research, I looked at pay scales and whatever. There's also videos I was watching on YouTube at the time from people that were financial advisors and financial experts. Should I stay or should I go? If I stay, I would have to have an income of like 45K. And that sounds crazy. When I first saw that number, I'm like, surely there's been a mistake here. But when I crunched the numbers of everything else that I want, it made sense. Because of the economic situation that we're in South Africa, a lot of people are one paycheck away from poverty. So the prompts that I had given chat was, how much do I need to be earning to make sure that I can do this, and this, which obviously meant never reaching poverty, even if I miss a paycheck. The nice thing about my work experiences is, and the fact that I had now lived alone, is it also changed my brain chemistry to understand that there's a huge difference between a salary and a salary package. So if you're looking at a salary, I would need 45K in order to stay and live the life that I want. But if you're looking at a salary package, which is what Epic was now offering, I was going to be earning less. Already, this is not looking cute. I don't think it's worth me leaving everything that I know and going halfway across the world. But I was like, wait, let's go through everything. Next thing was, how much would life day to day be? If I stay, I would have to think about rent, utilities, and Wi Fi. Unlike if I go, free housing. Next on the list was, if I stay, I would have to look at the cost of Uber or using the car train, which doesn't go everywhere, or just biting the bullet and getting a car. And with the way things are, I felt like getting a car was the better decision. A car, you need to pay for the installments, and you also need to pay for the petrol, and you also need to pay for the insurance, and you also, people forget, need to put money aside for maintenance. But if I go, the public transport in South Korea is actually very safe and very reliable. Honestly, thinking about how it's going to take so much money for me to relocate, because I wanted to move to Joburg North again. Whereas here, they do give you money for coming to South Korea. That's actually how I ended up buying my iPhone 17 Pro Max for cash. And I took that application, I filled it out. It took hours, but I sent it off and I was like, well, let's see what happens. The second factor to me actually coming to South Korea, or rather the determining factor, you might want to get comfortable for this one, but it was a man. It was a man that made this entire move more of a nail in the coffin kind of thing. Yeah. So I didn't come here for a man because I'll never do such a silly thing. But I definitely was inspired. I was pushed into going to South Korea because of a man. So once upon a time, as you know, I applied, and this is now a matter of timeline and God's sense of humor. I applied sometime before October, and I got an initial interview with the agency that I used, which is Tiffle UK. And the interview was more of a formality so that they can see me, see that I'm real, meet me. They then told me that, okay, Epic is going to reach out to you in 3 weeks. It's just silence, absolute silence. Didn't hear anything from anyone. And I was like, yo, just have decided that I'm just not the right fit. And it is what it is. And by they, I mean Epic. Before I go on, I continue to live my life because what else am I going to do? I continue going to work, I continue doing my job, and I meet someone. But I'm not meeting this person really. I already knew them. It was just a matter of now I'm getting to have an actual conversation with them and get to know them, and they're getting to know me. We chit chat, we form a friendship, it's lovely, and then we decide, nah, we really like each other, and we start getting into a relationship. I even told him this afterwards, but it was the best relationship I've had, I'll admit. If I needed help with anything under the sun at any time of the day, no matter where I am, he was right there. And even when I'm not necessarily telling him, it's more of just like chit chatting, he will resolve whatever issue I have before it becomes a major issue. It's a small thing for some people, but for me, it's a big thing because, as I mentioned in a vlog, like some time ago, and even recently, the only person I trust in this world is my mother, and that's because Uma, when she says she's going to do A, B, and C, she really is going to do A, B, and C. She is a woman of her word, and that really matters a lot with me. And people don't understand how valuable that is. So even if you aren't able to do A, B, and C, you still communicate that, okay, I can't do C, but how about we do it this way instead? Making a plan, you know? And that's the kind of person I've also grown up to be. That's the kind of person I am. So I've never quite matched with someone like that in a relationship. That's also very important because there are people that may show up for me when we're dating or situationships or talking phases, but not in a relationship. And it was such a shame that was short lived for reasons for another day. But when the relationship ended, I was like, yeah, I always knew this, but now it is confirmed now that I'm experiencing it. And that is a man can never be a plan, ever. And what I mean by that in this situation is my life at the time was okay, but I wasn't thriving the way that I wanted to thrive. And he came along and he did make life, sweeter, easier, nicer. He didn't give me money. And I think that's a very important thing to note as well. He didn't give me money. but he made sure that everything was rosy. He made sure that I always had a smile on my face. I always had something to look forward to because we are going to go do something together, whatever the case may be. But life was definitely rosy. And the thing about resources is you do need a certain amount of money to have access to resources. So, because my life at the time, I didn't have the chump change or the money in my back pocket to have access to certain resources, my life really was I can afford this and live this life and do this and then that's it. But if there's an emergency or something on the side happens or I want to do something nice, I couldn't really do that. And now when he was there, I could. I got that real life experience of how things can really disappear in the blink of an eye if I do not have a way of obtaining those things myself. So I was sad when things ended, but I was also very grateful because one thing about God, there are many experiences that He lets me have now in my 20s so that I don't have to worry about them later on in life when there's bigger consequences or bigger responsibilities, such as dating in the workplace. Like, been there, done that, story for another day. But I know that I'll never do such a stupid thing in my future because I've already done it before in my 20s. So this was one of those things where now I got to see that, oh, okay, even if I stayed, even if I decided to not continue my application and this person was going to take care of me, and he truly would have. He truly would have. I do believe that. Because my life didn't seem like it was going to get significantly better to the point that I wanted it to if I stayed, I was going to be in a very tricky situation where he is the keeper of the good life. And that is very scary. That's very scary. It's just not yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me, hey? It's really not for me. Like, if it's for you, then, congratulations. Happy birthday, Beyonce, but it's not for me. So, even when we now ended things, God's timing, nearly 2 days later, that's when I get an email from Epic saying, "Hey girl, we would like to interview you." And I now had to log in. I had to wipe my tears and log in immediately. I prepared for the interview. I prepared. And as you saw with the video where I announced, I interviewed literally today and I got the offer tomorrow, which is a record because it usually takes 3 days for them to get back to you. And that's when you're lucky. So for me to get a response in 24 hours, that was my definite confirmation from God that it is my time. It's getting rowdier and rowdier. And it's also time for me to actually do the work that I came here for besides just filming. Frequently asked questions that I've received so far, but I know that there's so much more. But these are the ones that actually match the vibe of today's video. Firstly, did I enjoy my last job? This is me looking at my laptop, by the way. Did I enjoy my last job? The answer is yes, I did. I did enjoy my last job being an executive assistant. Being an executive assistant also made me learn so much more than I could have learned about this new sector, to a point where I was so interested in public works that I did get online certificates during my time there. The work environment itself, in hindsight, do I deserve everything that I experienced? No. But did it make me stronger? Yes. Yes, it did. Because I have worked in different environments before. This was the most and the longest where I would have to be amongst a lot of people day in, day out. And because of the nature of my job, I have to have a smile on my face. So it definitely made me stronger and built up that muscle of being able to stay composed, even though I am not feeling composed. My former employer, I really do mean it when I say that he was a true mentor because created those connections with people and really saw the best in people. It really helped me as well in maintaining my composure and really developing a quiet strength. Second question is, when am I coming back to South Africa? The short answer is never. The short answer is never because there's nothing for me there, as I explained earlier. But the long answer is when I retire. And the reason I think retirement, that is the absolute latest that I'd be coming back home, is because at that point I won't need anything from South African institutions. It wouldn't matter who is president. It wouldn't matter which political party is in power. It wouldn't matter that I should have smiled at this person and I should have laughed at that person and I should have shook hands with that other person and my future would be secure if I smiled at so and so, and I wouldn't be at risk of being killed because all of that would not matter anymore if I'm retired. I already have all the money that I need, the connections that I need, the resources I need to continue living a long and healthy life. And then last question is, will I date? Yes. I remember telling my new friend Naomi, because we're still learning each other, about this whole situation that happened with my ex, and how I was like, I don't think I'm like in a position to date if I don't have like everything in order, blah 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 blah. And she was like, but your life is in order now. You have the things that you wanted. And I was like, huh. Granted, we're having this conversation before I even got my first salary. And I was living off of the money that my aunt gave me, which I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you. It was in that moment where I realized I truly am living in an answered prayer. The things that I wanted are already here. Confirmation that made me go, you know what? I could date. Because now, if someone comes along and they show me a little something special, they show me something special that I can pay for myself. They show me something special that I can easily access myself. If they want to show me something special, it would have to be something astronomically special. But I am no longer anywhere close to the position that I was in last year. As I said to someone, I have accomplished more in 1 month here than I would have if I stayed in South Africa. And that is the best reason to not even think about going back home anytime soon. The better question would be, would I date a South African? And the answer to that is Angaz. Angaz is not make sure. To be fair, guys, I have been in South Africa my whole life. I'm 27 years old now, turning 28 in October, 12 October. Don't forget. And I have exclusively dated South Africans. The only time I did not date a South African was when I dated a South African that has Rwandan heritage. Or I had a fling with a South African that has Nigerian roots. You understand? I always dated South Africans. So it's not like I didn't try. It's not like I didn't try. And even after I've left, I tried to make a connection with someone back at home and it didn't work. It didn't work. In their words, I quote, "It's not practical," which was a bummer because obviously, if I'm talking about it, it's because I thought that it was. So the fact that you are like, nah, I'm not going to convince you. So, no, it's not likely that I'm going to be dating a South African, especially since it will always be in the back of my mind that if I date this South African man, because it's going to be men that are going to follow this notion. If I date a South African man, I'm always going to be thinking about when do they want to go back home? Because for myself, as I've said, and as I'm going to keep saying, I don't plan on going back home anytime soon. I don't plan on staying here forever, but I'm not planning on going back home anytime soon. And I know that they will want to go back home before I do. And then what do we do? So stay tuned for that. Let's see what happens. It's been nice having this chit chat. Maybe one day I get that tripod that's gonna fit my iPhone 17 Pro Max Etengling with cash. But until then, I will meet you at the next cafe for a sit down. But seriously, I do need the tripod if I want to explain the documents situation to y'all. Because that is going to be a video that we really need to focus and concentrate. Do you understand? But don't forget to comment. What do you think was surprising about everything I just said? Please do like this video and please turn on your notifications. Otherwise, how are you going to know that I posted? Okay. Bye, guys.